I will start calling कि खादी एक brand बन गया है when people from other countries know this belongs to Pakistan. That's my ambition and goal in life.
ये जो बड़ा interesting distinction है leader और CEO में एक फ़र्क है.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the two?
A CEO to me is somebody who works from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 5 days a week. Entrepreneur works 7 days a week, 22 hours a day. Even when he's sleeping, the mind is working. And I think the problem is that in Pakistan, we don't celebrate successes, right? We just wait for it to make one small mistake so that we can celebrate their mistakes. I accidentally walked into one of my competitors' store. नाम नहीं लूँगा. कपड़े भी वैसे ही लग रहे थे, स्टोर का डिज़ाइन भी वैसे ही लग रहा था, स्टाफ का यूनिफॉर्म भी वही था. That day I went back, 14th August, I called my couple of people and I said, this will not work.
How does it play out working with the most important woman in your life, your wife?
I think home is still easy to manage, work it gets to
Hello and welcome everyone to DigiTales. My name is Faizan Sayed. आज मेरे साथ एक ऐसे गेस्ट मौजूद हैं जिन्होंने एक ऐसा ब्रांड खड़ा किया है जो पूरा पाकिस्तान जानता है. He needs no introduction, but I will still introduce him. Shamoon Sultan, the founder of Khaadi. How are you today?
Good, Faizan, how are you?
Good, good. It's been a while since we've tried to coordinate this. I'm glad we finally were able to do this.
And so trying very hard to get out of it, but
So there's so much to talk about. You've had so many articles written about Khaadi, your journey, all of that. Abhi main wo sab side pe chhodunga. You have this other passion that I want to talk about. It's fitness. ठीक है? Your journey with fitness keeps going through these roller coasters. Tell me about that. How do you maintain this journey of fitness? क्योंकि the schedule that you have is probably crazy. A lot of travel और अपने आप को fit रखना और अपनी health का ख्याल रखना is extremely important as a businessman. So how do you manage that?
Faizan, every time I've been focused on my fitness, that has always given me a self-discipline about my work. Or I think I've been able to perform better. I've been able to live better. It's a very, very important part in my journey और बहुत मैं इसको वैल्यू करता हूँ. बट ये वही वाली चीज़ है कि अगर कोई चीज़ आपके लिए इम्पोर्टेंट होती है तो आपको उसके लिए टाइम निकालना पड़ता है. And whatever I do, I have to make sure that I take out at least 45 minutes to 1 hour. तो जिम चला जाऊँगा या पार्क पे जाके वॉक कर लूँगा. But it sort of keeps me going. And I think recently, the past 1.5 years, I think I've been the most focused. And I think my overall performance, my company's performance has improved because of this.
Your company's performance is tied to your fitness. That's a big statement.
If my company's performance is tied to my fitness and my mental health, so yes, definitely.
तो इसका मतलब वो जो कहावत है सेठ का पेट, तो वो तो that doesn't apply in this case.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं करता. In fact, we recently ventured out into food. Opened a restaurant. We had it before COVID में उसको बंद कर दिया था. So one of the conditions that we had during the process while we were setting up the restaurant, मैंने कहा अगर मेरा 1 pound भी weight बढ़ा, I'm going to put this project on shelf.
हाँ जाहिर है restaurant set करते भी you'll have to try all the food.
So I make sure I don't try all of that. But it's not about fitness. It's about that discipline. I think that's very important.
And I think it's that discipline that you've also had in your business for the last 22 plus 24 years now. I think
25 years.
25 years now. 25 years you've had discipline, the speed with which you've grown your business, the speed with which you've scaled. Tell me a little bit about how you've maintained that discipline over the last 25 years.
So first of all, I don't think we've scaled that much. Yes, alhamdulillah, we've done well for any Pakistani brand.
I think you guys have done very well.
But we talk about a retail brand, like 8 billion people in the world.
Right.
I think we're very, very small, right? As an organization, as a brand. If you look at all the success stories in the world, fashion, clothing, how brands have grown and what they've done. This is nothing. The scale is absolutely nothing. So, yes, I'm very, very proud of what the company has achieved, what the brand has achieved. But I think there is so much more that we can do as a brand. So, I think just an underlying statement that I think there's still I still consider myself as a startup. Right? And I've been in that frame of mind for the past 1.5, 2 years that I've started to think about. In fact, since December 21, I've I mean, I went back into that whole phase. कि नहीं ना मेरा startup company all over. So it just really helped me.
So even after 25 years, mindset सिर्फ startup का ही दोबारा है कि वो mindset हम ऐसा रखें कि as if we are just starting up, वही एक approach हो, gutsy, hustling.
किसी भी पाकिस्तानी कंपनी को operating out of Pakistan with the scale, the way the world has scaled up in the past few decades, I think every company is in a startup mode now. In terms of ambition and aspiration. You know? हर startup company बड़ी नहीं बन जाती.
सही बात है.
So it does not mean if you're a startup, so you will be successful, right? But I'm just talking about that framework and that mindset that a startup needs.
And what is that mindset?
Very different.
In your opinion, what is that mindset?
Agility. You know?
Agility.
Able to change, you know, make a decision and change it after 1 hour, you know. So.
And you guys have become a big company in the last 25 years. How do you make that change so quickly? इतनी जल्दी change कैसे कर सकते हैं? क्योंकि change करना तो बड़ा मुश्किल होता है काम. How many employees do you have today?
So about 1500.
1500 लोगों का mindset change करना एक दिन में, एक हफ्ते में बड़ा मुश्किल काम है. So how do you stay agile?
So I think उसके लिए फैजान, the important thing is leadership. You know, I think that in companies में दो होती हैं चीज़ें. You know? There are CEOs and the leaders, right? So for a CEO, I feel to change somebody's mindset can take time, right? You know. And when I talk about leadership, a leader is someone that people follow. Like, you know, if you're in that leadership mode and people sort of believe you, you're people who work for you, they start believing in you, they start believing in your ambition, they start believing in your dreams, then it's very, very easy because then they will follow you, you know. And luckily, I feel there was, you know, if I divide my 25-year journey, there was a part, you know, where I felt I was a leader. You know, I was in that leadership role. Then became a CEO again, then became a CEO. Now, for the past 2.5 years, back into that whole leadership mindset and role, I think that change is, yes, it's difficult. It's not as simple as how it was in 1998 when there were 4 people. Right? You started the company with 4 people. So, उनके साथ कुछ भी कर ले, फौरन हो जाता था. It's difficult, and plus the company has obviously grown, so the stakes are high as well. So, you know, that change has to be well thought out, but करना ज़रूरी होता है.
ये जो बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्टिंक्शन है लीडर और सीईओ में एक फ़र्क है. व्हाट इज़ द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू इन पाकिस्तान स्पेशली? यू सेड लीडर इज़ दैट पर्सन जिसको सब फॉलो करते हैं. तो इसका मतलब सीईओ को लोग फॉलो नहीं करते?
सीईओ को फॉलो करते हैं.
तो फिर क्या डिस्टिंक्शन है इन दोनों में?
सो सीईओ आई फील ओके, a CEO to me is somebody who works from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 5 days a week. A leadership, or you know, and I don't think leadership is the right word over here. I think entrepreneur is, you know, an entrepreneur works 7 days a week, 22 hours a day. You know, even when you're sleeping, the mind is working. That's the difference between a CEO and an entrepreneur.
So basically,
an entrepreneur can become a leader.
Yeah.
Can be and take that leadership role. You know, a CEO is a leader, but वो जो मैं आपको एक following करने की बात कर रहा हूँ, when your company start believing and following you, that only comes in.
So you're saying कि CEO के start एक mindset ये कि the buck stops at a certain point.
Yeah.
कि बस अब ये मेरी responsibility ख़त्म, या तो board पे चली गई या entrepreneur founder पे चली गई. But founder के साथ या entrepreneur के साथ it's always on.
So entrepreneur is a mindset, right?
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset, right? So I think that ability to take risk and you know, मैंने भी recently about a few months back, you know, when we turned 25, so I rolled out an email to my entire organization. When I mean, in 5 minutes, I sort of defined the definition of an entrepreneur. If you have time, I'd love to read it for you. And I just thought about it. Like, you know, on that day, I was writing an email to my team and I said, what is the most important thing for me right now as an individual, as an organization? At that point, the only thing I could think of was entrepreneurship, right? That we are back in that entrepreneurship mindset. We always have to be, as an organization, I'm just talking about Khaadi right now, we always have to be in that entrepreneurial mindset. तो उस पे मैंने उसकी definition लिखी थी. So I will try and read it out for you.
No, I'm going to make you pull it up and as soon as we take a break and then you'll read it for me. But I also want to ask you one other thing कि जो CEO की बात की है, can't you create that kind of ownership, that buy-in, that entrepreneurial mindset by giving someone equity? क्योंकि अक्सर venture-backed businesses में कहते हैं कि here you go, here's some equity. Now suddenly you feel like an owner, you think like an owner. Do you think that that is possible in your experience?
So I'm sure. I mean, you've gone through an entrepreneurship journey yourself. So, do you think entrepreneur works for money?
In fact, it's the other way around.
Okay. So, entrepreneur works for his passion.
For a purpose. They are for a passion. Exactly.
So, passion और पैसे साथ नहीं हो सकते. Like, you know, making money can be a passion, but creating something, making a difference, or doing something is passion. Like, you know, ज़रूरी थोड़ी है कि उससे पैसे बने.
तो अगर आप equity दे दें, वो passion नहीं आता उस equity से.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
उस level की ownership नहीं आएगी जो passion से आती है.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं आ सकती. आ ही नहीं सकती. You know, passion के लिए, as I said, you know, passion के लिए आपको एक mindset चाहिए होता है. You need to create that culture. You know, where the whole organization, and I think we are very lucky that I have a very, very passionate organization. Right? And you know, I would have not been able to do 2% of what I've achieved if it was not for passion. That comes in through culture. That comes in through a mindset. You know, so I think equity देके अगर करना होता तो दुनिया का सबसे आसान काम था ना. मैं आप एक equity देके एक Apple क्यों नहीं बना सकता पाकिस्तान के अंदर. You know, so
and you've hired corporates, मतलब senior corporate professionals को hire किया. You put them in very senior roles. और अक्सर लोग aspire करते हैं कि भाई मैं अपना let's say business बनाऊँ. I want to hire a corporate professional, put them into my business, and that establishes कि यार मेरा business कितना बड़ा हो गया and successful. How was your experience hiring corporate professionals? Because they're not there in your organization today, from the sound.
There are lots of corporate
at senior roles.
Senior roles. Senior. देखिए फैजान, मेरे साथ एक जो चीज़ है, like you know, the difference between Khaadi and a few other businesses and a lot of Pakistani businesses. So when we talk about, you know, we talk about family businesses, right? When we talk about family businesses, so family includes a lot of people, right? भाई भी होते हैं उनके,
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही
होते हैं, वो भी होते हैं. So when I started the company, I did it on my own, right? You know, right now I do not have that family support in the business except for Saira, you know, who sort of it's a design function. Apart from Saira, there's nobody from the family in the business. And as the business grows, there is no choice that you have to hire these professionals to run your organization. So there are a lot of professionals who are there to running the organization. So, but when we talk about experience, yes, good and bad both, you know, because and nothing wrong with that with a professional. You know, her profession I think is in Pakistan. I think has some top class professionals. The difference comes in when the problem आता है कि when you get in a professional, you know, and if it does not sort of blends in your culture, right? And over the years, I've learned, you know, that now whoever I hire, you know, at a senior role, I make sure. You know, like I recently hired somebody about a month and a half back, very, very senior. So I met him about, like I've worked with him, I've known him, met him about 7-8 times, right? So because I've worked with him, मैंने उसके साथ काम उनके साथ किया था, तो मुझे क्या मैंने जज करना था उसके अंदर. Out of those 8 meetings में एक में हमने थोड़ा role discuss किया, and the 7 meetings that I had with him, I just spoke about the culture, you know. Who are we as an organization? Who we want to be, you know? So if somehow, you know, when you hire these, when the leadership sort of starts believing in your culture, then you are unstoppable. Because culture जो है ना किसी भी organization का, right? You know, your organization, my organization, or a bank or anybody, every organization is very different in terms of their own culture. The problem comes in, you know, which I also went through and learned it, that when I started hiring these professionals, you know, I mean, they're absolutely superb. I sort of started buying in the culture of the organization. So there was a time, you know, in my own company, there were 4 organizations running, the 4 culture running, you know. And so that sort of this is where people I feel go wrong in this, right? When you hire people for their knowledge, you hire people for their talent, right?
Right.
अब वो अगर एक जगह पे काम कर रहे हैं ना आप, अगेन आई एम एट फॉल्ट, राइट? एंड मैंने उस चीज़ से एस्पायर हो गया कि जी वो उसका तो ज़बरदस्त, वो एक XYZ एक MNC है जो कि आउटस्टैंडिंग काम कर रही है, ये हो रहा है. सो व्हाट, समबडी कम्स इन, विल जस्ट ब्रिंग इन द सिस्टम एंड यहाँ के प्रोसेसेस एंड विल जस्ट फॉलो. Doesn't work like this. Doesn't work like this at all, you know.
So technically then you're not hiring them for anything other than their experience and knowledge कि वो experience and knowledge लेके they become a part of your culture.
Yeah. I'm hiring them for their experience and for their knowledge, right?
Right.
I should not be looking at the culture that they're working in, the organization they're working in. जो वहाँ का culture है वो तो मैं buy नहीं कर रहा ना. At times ये हो जाता है, So
and what happens, like you mentioned, कि then there were 4 cultures working at the same time in the company. How did you?
It just creates chaos, right? And you kind of forget who you are.
Yeah.
और आपको किस चीज़ ने बनाया था.
Yeah.
आपको जिस चीज़ ने बनाया था ना वो आपको कभी नहीं भूलना चाहिए. In our case, that was just 2. We were way ahead of anybody else in terms of our product design and our customer experience. And then at times when you do this and you go up, we as an organization for a few years, we kind of lost that, because of this.
It was because of the corporatization, in a sense.
Again, from an entrepreneur, I became a CEO.
Right? And it was during this time you feel you lost your way.
I think so. Yeah. We did.
Why do you feel you needed to move from an entrepreneur to a CEO? What was the reason for that? वो जो shift था क्यों आया था?
I think again, as the business was growing,
So it was a function of growth.
It's a function of growth, right? And again, with zero experience, how के grow कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, and you make these decisions.
Right.
And which was, I think, the best due to corporatizing the whole organization was one of my best decisions, right? But yet, while doing that, forgetting the DNA of the company, that was wrong. I should have never let go, which I kind of got back 2.5 years back. And I've seen some phenomenal results with that.
And a couple of years back, there was a lot of rumors. You got funding from IFC.
Yeah.
There was also a rumor of you having been acquired or a stake having been acquired. I think it was Lucky Group.
Yeah.
काफी
थे. मैंने तो रोज सुनता था, मुझे रोज एक WhatsApp आता था कि आज उसने ले लिया. I even saw my ऑफर लेटर जब एक्वायर हुआ था तो मेरी क्या सैलरी है, क्या पर्क्स है, मैंने कहा यार ये तो अच्छा ही कर लेना चाहिए.
इसकी वजह क्या थी कि इतने सारे रूमर्स एकदम से क्यों चल पड़े थे? What do you think was the reason कि this started happening at a specific point in time?
I think the problem is that in Pakistan, we don't celebrate successes, right? And any individual, anybody who's successful, we just wait for it to make one small mistake so that we can celebrate their mistakes, right? So I think agar main usko sum up karu, for all these years, people were just waiting for us to make a couple of mistakes, and that was about it. So then फिर जिसकी जो मर्जी आए वो शुरू हो जाए. ये rumor कैसे शुरू हुआ था मुझे कुछ नहीं पता, but I know yes, my father's मेरे का जो business है, they have an acquisition and merger with the Lucky Group, right? ICI के साथ उनका एक merger है. And
Infant formula का जो business है, Dan
absolutely.
Morinaga,
Yes,
I think.
yes,
And
yes.
then that merged with ICI.
Yes.
Correct.
So I remember in 2021, one fine day, Sohail Dabba was there in my office to have a cup of chai, and we were just discussing random things.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe उसके बाद कोई कोई ज़रूर मुझे याद है बात हुई थी कि बैक एंड पे इंटीग्रेशन पे कोई वीविंग का कोई प्रोजेक्ट देखना चाहिए, कुछ करना चाहिए, ये सब बात हुई होगी. उसके बाद मैं तो एक अज्यूम कर रहा हूँ कि उसके बाद शुरू हो गया था वो. बट उस टाइम पे तो बहुत सारा हुआ था. I'm saying it was just not one, there were quite a few. So,
What else was there?
पता नहीं यार.
पाकिस्तान में मसला एक और भी है ना, उड़ती हुई चिड़ियाँ बहुत हैं. और वो जाके पता नहीं कहाँ जाती है.
At time I remember उस टाइम पे, and it was like, that was probably the most exciting time of my life. I learned the most in 2021, and I think it was just pure negativity, because कुछ लोग होते हैं जो, for me I feel that when ये चीज़ें इस तरह होने लगती हैं, I become stronger as a person, and sort of होता है like so जब ये सब कुछ हो रहा था तो बड़ा बात होती थी, the corporate communication people, we should go issue a statements denying all of this. And I just stopped everybody at that time. I said, no, we're not going to do any of this. We will show some results, and then people will stop talking themselves. And today, I don't know, nobody even remembers or talks about it.
So you think that the results are the best form of
Absolutely.
clarification rather than putting out
Absolutely.
statements?
If you're sure about your path, if you know what you're doing, and I think 2021 when all of this was happening, I think I was crystal clear what I was doing.
And was this because so you talk about 2021, this period where you sort of achieved clarity, it was back to leadership, back to basics, the customer experience, the product. Are you referring to the period in the mid, let's say 2010s, where you went into a rapid expansion phase?
Yeah.
कि stores हर जगह खोलने हैं, बहुत बड़े बड़े stores खोलने हैं, सारे major cities में stores खोलने हैं, and that puts a real burden on your cash flow. Walk me through what was the mindset behind that. Was that the mindset of these other professionals coming in? Was that your mindset? What impact did it have on your business that led to that clarity in 2021?
So end of the day, it was all my decision, and I'll take full responsibility for that. Yes. So I think you need to go back a little bit. We started the organization in 1998. 1998 से 2012 तक was a very, very slow, because पाकिस्तान में retail तो कोई concept ही नहीं था. Retail
Right.
क्या होता है, it was evolving.
And वो 98 में जमजमा पे store था.
Yeah, very small store in Zamzam,
और उसके
450 square feet, and
Right.
very small, very humble beginning. Right?
And 2012 तक.
2012 तक.
And nothing, no additional stores in between.
No, we had about 21 stores. And,
Achha, so you
but
opened
it was very, very small. The biggest store in 2012 was about 1,300 square feet. The biggest store that we had.
Okay, so basically you had about 20 stores.
I'm just because I don't like
Right.
counting numbers.
Sure.
I don't remember any of this, but I'm assuming must be around 20
but
stores.
all less than 1,500. Let's say less than 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So very small footprints.
Yeah. वो बड़ा अच्छा टाइम था ना उस टाइम में पाकिस्तान में 100 रुपए का 90 रुपए का डॉलर होता था.
हाँ.
So just to give you.
ये तो मैं भूल गया हूँ दौर यार. ये दौर
So
तो
just
याद
to
ही नहीं.
give you an idea, in 2012, from 1998 to 2012, the business size was about $10 million.
हाँ.
Right? So, assuming 100 rupees a dollar.
ठीक है.
Then in 2012, I started taking risks. I started opening big stores, started really focusing on the customer experience and the stores, जो भी उस टाइम पे best possible way था. The business grew 15x in 3 years. ठीक है.
Wow.
From 12 to 15, आज probably dollar terms में आज हम उससे छोटे होंगे probably मेरे हिसाब से, but business grew from $10 million to $150 million
in 3 years.
in 3 years, right? In three and a half years.
That's crazy.
Massive growth, and it was just not us. It was not just us. I think the whole industry started developing at that time. Dolmen Mall खुला, other malls opened up, बनने शुरू हो गए थे. There was a complete, and there's some good government policies at that time जो उस time पे थी, which sort of helped. Because मैं हमेशा एक बात बोलता हूँ कि पाकिस्तान में retail, right? When you talk about competition, our competition is not people operating in Dolmen Mall or Emporium Mall or Lucky Mall, right? Or any other mall or any other high street. The competition in Pakistan for retail is about that 85% of the sector is not documented, right?
True.
So the real growth is when you convert the undocumented into document, right?
Right.
Document कैसे होगा? Unfortunately, there are not enough markets being developed in Pakistan. But जब ये develop होनी शुरू हो जाएंगी तो खुद ब खुद हो जाएगा ना. उस time पे develop बहुत हुआ. When I started in 1998, probably for documentation was zero, right? So today it's still 15%. So I've seen that zero with the market size growing so much. I've still seen that 15% documentation happening or 20% documentation happening in all these years.
So wait, your retail, stitching retail is only 15% documented?
I don't think it's more than 15-20% documented right now.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what it is. And मैं तो हमेशा कहता हूँ कि पूरी economy अगर not documented हो, अगर से retail documented हो, because that's the last point, right?
Yeah.
And where you pay the money, तो सब कुछ document हो जाता है ना, because वहाँ तो सब कुछ convert हो जाता है. So, documentation की तो best दुनिया में हर एक ने ये किया है कि document करने के लिए retail को use किया है. So the market was growing, and a lot of, I think Pakistan में जितने brands बने वो 2012 और 15 के बीच में major brands बने because of that. And obviously they saw us growing and a few other brands growing, so that sort of वो पूरा हुआ. I think in 2015-16, हमने इतना अच्छा एक अपना base set कर लिया था, and we were in such a right trajectory, and that's when I said कि यार the business has grown so much. एक business जो कि 0 to 10 14 साल में पहुंचा हो और फिर 10 to 150 3 साल में हो जाए, and you see and things were looking absolutely fantastic at that time, 15 16, right? The way the focus was on retail, you know? And so we started, obviously said, yeah, how will it work? We started corporatizing and all of that, you know, and bringing in people. That's the time we even engaged McKinsey to do a 5-year strategy, 5, 7 year strategy for us, you know. At that time I thought, you know, because, you know, being the only person in the business, like, you know, I somehow will have to get in, you know, I was very, very clear that, you know, at some point I will get in some equity to sort of grow the business, maybe do an IPO or whatever.
Right.
I do. I was very, I mean, the direction was absolutely clear. And I think we did the right thing. Because वो सब नहीं करते तो आज ये सब थोड़ी होना था उस टाइम पे. I think उस टाइम पे 16 पे, you know, this is a term that I very loosely use in my organization. I think in 2016, when we sort of, you know, did this whole transition and journey of corporatization, हमें कोविड हो गया था with a K, ठीक है? And you know, और जब 2020 में 22nd March को जब लॉकडाउन लगा था ना, that was the day that we got the vaccine, you know. That's how I look at it.
So explain this to me. You said कि 2016 में खाड़ी को कोविड हो गया.
मुझे
अच्छा, you had कोविड. नहीं तो इससे क्या मतलब था कि मतलब सांस स्मेल आना बंद हो गया था, सोच बंद हो गई,
सब कुछ हो गया,
सब बंद हो गया था. नहीं तो what was it the success that may have caused that sort of blur for a little period of time कि यार nothing can go wrong now?
Yeah, part was that. I think myself became complacent. I became complacent as an individual, and even I think the organization became at that time. You know? And जब चीज़ें सब अच्छी चल रही, सब कुछ हो गया ना यार, कर दिया अब तो, you know, एक वो बड़ा एक कॉमन वर्ड यूज होता है कि अब हम ऑटो पायलट पे चलाएंगे.
ऑटो पायलट पे. Yes. वो सिर्फ यहाँ यूज होता है.
कोई चीज़ नहीं होती ऑटो पायलट, ठीक है? आज एप्पल भी ऑटो पायलट भी नहीं चल सकती, ठीक है? दुनिया की कोई कंपनी ऑटो पायलट भी नहीं चल सकती. So that's what it was.
अच्छा, so that's when you say कि so that's what you mean when you say कि I went into CEO mode. It was around that time that you went into CEO mode. कि यार ऑटो पे आ गया, the business has grown 12 to 15, मतलब हमने वो कर लिया जो हमने 12 साल से मैं नहीं किया था, right?
एक इंसान जो पूरी ज़िंदगी जिसने पहले 18 साल has worked about 12 to 14 hours a day, never tried not to take a day off, like, you know, but I still do that, like, you know, on Sundays I go to my office and have my morning coffee.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the time. उस वक्त भी यही करता था, आज भी अब दोबारा से करना शुरू कर दिया वो, right? You know, just to keep my brain working, you know, and to be focused. And then फिर आप all of a sudden आ जाए 8-9 hours of working, you know. अब तो Saturday भी ऑफ करना है, you know, and I'm talking about myself, right?
Right.
You know, सबका ऑफ हो, but why should I take off on Saturdays, right?
Right.
And एक आप 8 घंटे में से 9 घंटे कमरे में बैठ के सिर्फ स्ट्रैटेजी बना रहे हो, you know, and because this is one word that I've right now kind of banned in the organization, right? कोई स्ट्रैटेजी कोई चीज़ नहीं है.
And especially when you say कि, you know, your key differentiator was your customer experience and the product.
And we were way ahead of everybody else at that time. So अब इसका result ये हुआ कि when we became complacent, because, you know, we were leading, right? And a lot of new brands were coming up, a lot of new people were entering, you know, a lot of people were trying to catch up. When we kind of became complacent, a lot of people started
filling the
gap था ना, gap कम होना शुरू हो गया, ठीक है? And that's what was the problem, right? And but ambition, aspiration वहाँ था, ठीक है? Strategy वहाँ की बना दी, ठीक है? और हम we stopped innovating. That's how I put it. We stopped innovating the two strengths that we have. तो फिर हुआ ये कि I still remember it was 13th August 2019. I was going to my store in Lucky Mall. मैं सबको एक किस्सा सुनाता हूँ. I was talking to somebody on the phone. I don't know who that person was. I keep forgetting. याद आ जाए मैं उसको जाके सलाम करके आऊँ उसको. And वो तो ना कभी कभी फ़ोन पे बात करते हुए stressful sort of a conversation. I'm sure कोई strategy की बात हो रही होगी. ठीक है. So I accidentally walked into one of my competitors' store.
हाँ.
नाम नहीं लूँगा. अच्छा, फ़ोन पे बात ख़त्म हो गई. I was always must be busy
Yeah.
in my thoughts. So for 2-3 minutes, I was just kept roaming around in that store. And after a few minutes, I realized, यार ये तो खादी नहीं है.
हाँ.
You know, कपड़े भी वैसे ही लग रहे थे, स्टोर का डिज़ाइन भी वैसे ही लग रहा था,
हाँ.
स्टाफ का यूनिफॉर्म भी वही था.
हाँ.
You know, it was then we started looking at the faces. यार, where's the store manager? Where's this?
Yeah.
So मैंने कहा यार ये गड़बड़ है. तो मैंने कहा यार गड़बड़ हो गई कोई इसमें ना. The feeling was,
Yeah.
you know, आपके साथ भी होती है, हर एक के साथ एक्सपीरियंस
Yeah.
जरूर होता है पाकिस्तान में. दिसंबर में when you go to these weddings,
Yeah.
जो एक साथ टेंट लगे होते हैं, you walk into the wrong wedding,
Yeah.
and you still end up staying there because the food looks better. You eat
Yeah.
the food and then go to the other wedding. So that was the sort of feeling. I swear that was the feeling that I got that day. I walked into a wrong wedding. I said, that day I went back, 14th August. I called my couple of people and I said, this will not work. And I think that was the day when they realized it's all gone wrong. In the past 3 years, it's all gone wrong. And now every brand, if every brand is going to look like us, so क्या होगा? You know, मुझे इस टाइम की एक बात याद आती है. You know, when we were growing, तो उस वक्त ये होता था कि whatever जो भी हम डिज़ाइन बनाते थे उसका कोई ना कोई इसकी कॉपीज बन के आ जाती थी. आज भी होता होगा, right? And there was always so much, you know, noise and, you know, people used to talk कि ऐसा कुछ करना चाहिए. We tried stopping it. Then we realized कि यार इसको रोक नहीं सकते कभी भी ना. Then, you know, and then one day I called my team and I said, we will not. Let them. Whoever wants to copy our design, let them do it. And I said, now we will discuss this the day when people stop copying us, right? But the day people stop copying us is the day when, you know,
We're not innovating.
You're not winning, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else is.
Yeah.
That's the day we should be worried about. It's just those thoughts came to my mind कि यार अब तो ये सब इन्होंने कर लिया, अभी क्या करेंगे? अब तो हमसे बेहतर होना शुरू हो जाएंगे. So then उसके बाद anyway, we decided that I said, yeah, I'm going to completely redo the product, completely redo the store design, rebrand everything, you know. And so we engaged somebody for that, you know, not in Pakistan. So, and जैसे ही वो सब कुछ प्लान बना between August and, you know, literally I remember Jan Feb तक वो प्लान बना था. And उसके एक हफ्ते या 2 हफ्ते के बाद कोविड हो गया था. And then we had to stop. And 21 में then, you know, वो भी एक इंसिडेंट है कि वापस मैंने 20 में बंद कर दिया था because you know 20 में तो it was all about, you know, save whatever you can, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
retail was looking all so bleak and, you know, in Pakistan especially, everything was shut down. And so 21 में January में I got COVID. And वो उस टाइम पे, you know, वैक्सीन भी लगी हुई थी, वैक्सीन आई भी नहीं थी उस टाइम पे, you know. तो 17-18 दिन वाला टाइम था and I was locked inside a room, right? And I didn't get out of the room, you know, because वो किसी को आने भी नहीं देते थे, इतना डर था उस टाइम के ऊपर. That 17-18 days when I had it पूरा, I completely rethought everything and I said, no, I have to do this, you know. And that's when I went and after that I decided we're going to पूरा product को change करेंगे, पूरा rebranding करेंगे, and we did that. And I still remember उसका starting point ये था जब मैं वहाँ से निकला, जब मैंने टेस्ट कराया, टेस्ट नेगेटिव हुआ, you know. So I went straight to the office and the first thing I did, मेरे जो ऑफिस की वॉल थी ना कमरे की, मैंने वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को बुलाया और दीवार तोड़ दी उसकी. And I said, I'm not going to sit in a closed room, you know, because when you talk about entrepreneurship, when you talk about those early years, you know, when Khaadi was all about growth, Khaadi was all about product development. So I didn't have an office. I used to sit, मेरा office खुला होता था, right? Why am I sitting in a closed door like this, right? So I can never bring back that sort of a mindset if I sit in a closed room. And I think those are small things that changed a lot.
Interesting, but इसमें एक चीज, you know, I think hindsight is 20/20 as they say, right? That period of the burst that took place, right? And then the period of complacency that then led to the period of reinvigoration, if I was to break it up into 3 periods. Could there have been a situation where you could have maintained a steady trajectory over time rather than go through this journey? Matlab, is that even possible in entrepreneurship, or is it you are just going and figuring it out as you go? Because that's what it seems like you did.
Then you're not an entrepreneur.
then you're not an entrepreneur.
Not at all.
So going through this up and down is part of the journey.
So, again, the mindset, it's not about going up and down. ठीक है, वो तो आपके किसी अच्छे stable business में भी हो सकता है ना. It's about, I keep on going back to the same thing. It's about keeping that passion alive.
Right.
That can, I mean, वो तो एक outcome है ना, ऊपर जाए नीचे जाए जो भी होता है ना.
True.
So that spirit, वो नहीं रुक सकता. वो it has to be like this. That spirit, that can never go down.
The spirit की trajectory upward होनी चाहिए.
Absolutely, always. And complacency नहीं होनी चाहिए. Decision making change होती रहनी चाहिए. So what if he made a decision, यार? Because I hear this all the time. अभी कल तो किया था ये फैसला, तो कर दिया था, नहीं समझ आ रहा यार, कर लेते चेंज, इसका अच्छा आ जाएगा.
इंसान है, रोबोट थोड़ी है. इसमें I had another question pop into my head. 2012 to 2015, such a large growth. How did you finance that growth? Because you self-finance the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you didn't take external financing to grow 15x?
No.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You must have figured out really good payment terms with your vendors, and the biggest advantage is you're collecting cash.
Yeah.
Actually, that is your financing. You're collecting cash and then your payables are 30, 60, 90, whatever. So you've already got a bit of a float there.
Yeah. And business was small, यार. Business was small. आज के डॉलर रेट पे तो वो बिजनेस बहुत छोटा था ना. तब इतना कोई what I mean, वो तो हमारे साथ हो गया ना कि डॉलर टर्म्स में so many Pakistani companies lost their value, right? But it's still very, very small. In terms of, again, when we talk about retail, we talk about, look at all the big retail brands in the world, yeah. Look at their, I mean, they range somewhere between $5 billion to $40-50 billion, right?
True.
Top line sales. That's the strength for retail in the world. So, और वो टाइम पे वो टाइम था जब even in that time there was no online.
There was no online, exactly.
पाकिस्तान में तो था ही नहीं इस टाइम के ऊपर.
Why did you decide to go to the big cities around the world, high street पे store खोलना है? मतलब, do you really think कि पाकिस्तानी fashion का एक demand होगा on the high streets of London or New York or wherever else you were thinking of opening? And you did open, in major malls around the world as well. Why a Pakistani brand? Would there be demand? I mean, what was your logic behind that? And did it work?
Nope.
It didn't
Initially, it didn't work at all. And still, I think there's a lot of challenge. I mean, operating in those cities with those kind of costs is very, very challenging. But that's probably, that's the challenge I like, and
because you're a niche product for that market. मतलब, you're not mainstream t-shirt.
बहुत मैंने कर लिया, मैंने बहुत कोशिश कर ली, तो कितने मैं stores बाहर खोल लूँगा? Okay, we've got about 10-12 stores outside Pakistan. How many stores will open?
You could do maybe 100.
So 100, I will be a niche.
You'll still be niche.
Absolutely. In the global arena, I would still be a niche. 100 stores is nothing.
How many does Zara have, or like a H&M have, or a...
Zara should have about 600, 700 stores with about an average size of about 25, 30. Up to bigger than that. 25, 30,000 square feet. A brand like, I'm not sure about the number, but I mean, if I look at Mango, for example, 4,000, 5,000 square feet store, this kind of size that we opened outside Pakistan, they must be having close to 2,000, 3,000 stores. 2,000
stores. Yeah. So even if you're 100 stores, you're still niche.
Absolutely. US make coffee brands, like, their top line sale is about $10 billion, $12 billion.
That's true. $3, $5, $4 की coffee.
So, I mean, this is how the consumer market is heading globally, right? अब हम नहीं करना चाहते तो उनकी गलती तो नहीं है ना उसके अंदर.
क्या why not open another brand that is more international? Why do you think a Pakistani product or a variation of Pakistani product will work? अगर international retail का एक है aspiration from the sound of the conversation, you want that. Why not tweak or create a new line to achieve that?
Yes, can work, but there's a possibility that it might not work because then I think it's better to stay in that niche range.
Because competing with those guys is hard.
Will be difficult for a company, at least right now, because obviously the capital requirement, and it's difficult to a retail company जिसका head office पाकिस्तान में है अभी इस time के ऊपर, right?
Is that a perception problem or is that a logistics problem?
I think more perception.
क्या perception है बाहर? When you've gone out and opened stores around the world, perception क्या मिलता है?
कुछ नहीं मिलता perception, that's the problem.
अच्छा कोई perception नहीं है एक तरह से.
लोग कैसे but because I strongly believe that brands are such important for any country. मैं आपको 2-3 ब्रांड्स के अगर नाम लूंगा तो आपका पता होगा किस मुल्क से होते हैं. Emirates, Ferrari, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, कि किधर से है. The unfortunate thing is that nobody in Pakistan, in these so many years, have not been able to develop, at least to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, have been able to develop a single brand out of Pakistan.
Why is that?
Because building a brand requires much more than just looking at the balance sheet and P&L, right? I think as Pakistanis, as जो मैंने थोड़ा बहुत यहाँ पे देखा है, we love to invest in real estate, we love to invest in machinery, we love to invest. When you talk about a brand, especially a retail brand, there's no machinery, there's no real estate asset, right? The only thing you invest in is your brand, right? ब्रांड कैसे बनता है? ब्रांड प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट से बनता है, ब्रांड लोगो से बनता है, ब्रांड एक आइडिया से बनता है. एसेट्स तो बहुत छोटी चीज़ होती है इन टर्म्स ऑफ अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो जिस तरह से है तो ब्रांड की वैल्यू डज नॉट सॉर्ट ऑफ शो इन योर बैलेंस शीट. एंड that's why I think पाकिस्तान में nobody's been able to build a brand. This is my view. And again, we've got very smart businessmen over here, some great success stories. But पाकिस्तान में फिर भी वो ब्रांड की रिकग्निशन है, बट ग्लोबली हम कोई ब्रांड नहीं बना सके.
So a brand is to me a brand is the way a company makes you feel, right? More than just the product. You mentioned Ferrari, मुझे गाड़ियों का बहुत शौक है, right? मतलब any car can get me from A to B. मतलब Suzuki can, it does the job perfectly fine. But the way a sports car will make me feel in doing that same exact job, I cannot quantify that on a balance sheet.
Absolutely, but that's something personal, right? What you like and what I like. But what I'm trying to say is, when you talk about a brand, right, you should be able to associate कि कहाँ से शुरू हुआ था. That to me is a brand. If you don't know कि इसका origin कहाँ से है, तो ब्रांड.
अच्छा, तो ब्रांड की ओरिजिन स्टोरी जरूरी है.
बहुत जरूरी.
और ओरिजिन स्टोरी का कंट्री का लिंक होना चाहिए.
Absolutely, there's no other way. And that's how it is, And you look at all the countries in the world and see how many brands they've developed. अपने देख लो, name 100. Just do some thinking and say, okay, these are 20 brands I like. You will know कि कहाँ से शुरू हुआ था, क्या हुआ था. You'll read up on that. You will want to know more, right? About that. To me, that's the definition of a brand. When you're able to, not from, अगर मैं पाकिस्तान में तो हर एक को पता है ना खादी पाकिस्तान का है. पाकिस्तान से बाहर पाकिस्तानियों को पता है खादी पाकिस्तान का है. I will start calling कि खादी एक ब्रांड बन गया है when people from other countries know this belongs to Pakistan. That's my ambition and goal in life. I don't know if I'll be able to succeed in this or not, but can we make a brand from Pakistan? Because I think when you start creating brands, then when you start changing perception of the country.
True.
Your question on के गलत है मेरे हिसाब से कि do just people know that you're from Pakistan? No, that's wrong. नहीं solve करना चाहिए. हर एक ये बात करता है. No, what have we done to get ourselves recognized that we are from Pakistan? That's what I feel.
So you got to flip it, basically.
You have to flip it. Otherwise, it will not work. Why do you want your country to sort of, it's the country has played a pivotal role in your success and the infrastructure and all of that. But putting everything कि यार उसकी वजह से नहीं है, तो I don't believe in it. What have we not done for it to happen? And I personally feel that in Pakistan, my biggest problem that I see is that we do not spend enough money on R&D, on product development, on packaging your products, right? So I keep on saying this to my team that, for any business, the two most important things are, and it could be any business, right? आप टिश्यू का डब्बा बेच रहे हो, आप कपड़े बेच रहे हो, आप कुछ भी कर रहे हो, are two important things. Is your product and your customer, right?
True.
You know, we talk about, you know, आजकल बड़ा पाकिस्तान में fashionable word है, since, you know, and I'm glad that is happening because I think we're back in that phase that people are just, I mean, all the other brands are just following what we're doing. It's the customer experience, right? And I said it in recently that, you know, we use that word very loosely, customer experience, right? As if it's one word. No. It's two different words. Customer is a separate word, experience is a separate word. But we say it is customer. What is customer experience? I haven't been able to figure out what the customer experience is. And that's what I feel all businesses in Pakistan, to me right now. Pakistan में उन्होंने solve कर दिया होगा, right? Globally नहीं solve कर पाए हैं, हम भी नहीं कर पाए हैं कि इस part को. Because we don't spend enough on packaging our own product. How to market our own product. You know, that's where the gap is.
इसमें पैकेजिंग और मार्केटिंग की बात की, कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस की बात की. I'm going to try to tie in this one concept that I struggle with. ठीक है? We run a marketing business here and we work with all types of brands. When we work with brands in Pakistan, there is a perception कि अगर आप इसकी एडवर्टाइजिंग उर्दू में करेंगे तो आप लोअर इनकम क्लासेस को टारगेट कर रहे हैं एंड यू आर लेस प्रीमियम. ठीक है? एंड उर्दू देन इज परसीव टू बी लेस प्रीमियम. अच्छा, दुनिया भर में आप देखें, like we were having this conversation earlier, you said कि any country that has not adopted its own language has not progressed. तो अगर हम अपने आप को कह रहे हैं कि हमारी ही ज़बान में अगर हम मार्केट करें और एक कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस बिल्ड करना चाहें तो वो एक निचले तबके का है और एक लोअर एंड है, तो हम कभी भी ग्लोबली अपने आप को पोजीशन कैसे करेंगे? Because if we're saying what is native to us, our language, our culture is not here, then what you're trying to achieve will be almost impossible. So how do you turn that around?
So there are two questions in this, right? First of all, the earlier discussion we were having is a very recent, you know, realization for me. I try to think about this. कि दुनिया में जितने मुल्कों ने, the countries that have progressed have sort of not opted for a second language, right? Most of them. I think barring थोड़ा सा, I don't know, maybe एक इंडिया की एक चीज़ है कि जहाँ पे, you know, हो रहा है इसका, but look at China, look at France, Germany, America, UK.
Even look at Saudi now as it's progressing. Yeah, Arabic is the dominant culture and everything they need in Arabic.
So I think ये तो एक आपका start होना चाहिए for your belief in your country. You know, ये क्या आप क्यों उसमें पड़ गए आप इस चीज़ में ना, to opt for another language. This is again something, you know, but this is a recent realization. With what you're saying is, I think it's a separate thing. You know, the communication. Communication can be adapted in any other language, but being in Pakistan, I think the communication should be in Urdu. I think
it should be in Urdu.
Absolutely. You know, मैं खुद नहीं कर सकता भी अपने उसमें. But if it was 100% my way, I would love to.
तो हम क्यों नहीं करते उर्दू में communicate?
वही mindset ना. एक perception हमें बचपन से ऐसी build कर दी गई है कि दो languages सीखनी है, दो चीज़ों में करना है. Used to है ना. अब somebody has to bring that change. You know? आप, you know, you just said that you love cars. Ferrari की बात कर रहे हैं, तो आप जब Ferrari के ऑफिस में जाएंगे और वहाँ पे जब उसकी कोई उसकी मार्केटिंग एड कैंपेन देखेंगे तो इंग्लिश में तो नहीं देखेंगे ना. But if you, inshallah, one day if somebody puts up a plant here in Pakistan, you know, and so उसमें फिर करना पड़ेगा. But unfortunately यहाँ भी उसमें करते हैं. I think sort of telcos tried to do it at one point.
But they even romanized.
Yeah, they did.
उन्होंने उर्दू इंग्लिश कंबाइन करके एक नई ज़बान बना दी, which to me now you've created a third language, you know. So it's I think I struggle with that a little bit because I don't understand. A lot of brand managers, they say नहीं उर्दू में हमें marketing नहीं करनी है. You know, I mean, in fact, I look at, अक्सर मैं देखता हूँ कि let's say tweets हैं of, let's say you've got the Canadian Prime Minister. He will tweet in English and he will also tweet in French. Right? So you're running multiple languages at the same time. Okay, you've got a dominant language and you've got a secondary language. That's fine. But you are accepting both. Here, it's almost like it's either or depending on who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that mindset, I think Dubai has done a great job of it. Yeah. Even Saudi now is adopting that model कि English भी है, Arabic भी है और ये mandatory है. You know, if we were to adopt that, I think we can take it to a global level of brand. I mean, look at Uniqlo. Uniqlo की brand में Japanese characters हैं.
Yeah, absolutely.
ठीक है? Not all of us understand Japanese characters, but they've taken it forward.
Yeah.
So it's tricky for me because I feel that some brand manager will have to take that risk. Some CMO will have to take that risk.
Yeah.
You know? But the question is, will it be a local company CMO?
It has to be a local company. Because कोई
बाहर से तो नहीं आएगा.
Unless they told to you आपको localize करना है. Which I'm sure करते भी होंगे. But again, बाहर से किया तो आपने किसी के कहने पे किया ना.
That's true.
You know, there's a global policy that was rolled out that, you know, all local communication will be done in the local
Right.
language, right? But the real would be if some Pakistani company takes the step. Okay. You know, but उसके लिए सिर्फ कोई वो communication थोड़ी करना पड़ेगा.
नहीं, the whole product and the whole service पूरा
सबसे पहले तो आपको अपनी कंपनी में बोलना पड़ेगा कि आपको ईमेल सारी उर्दू में लिखनी पड़ेगी. So this is how change will happen.
Yeah, that's true.
How can you go and tell something कि जब तक आप खुद अपने घर पे नहीं सही करेंगे?
Yeah,
so
that's
I think
true.
that's a culture. It's a very, very big discussion on this, and you know this cannot happen like just by एक ad को उर्दू में बनाने से नहीं हो सकता ना.
That's true.
So
Before I switch gears, अभी हम यही बात कर रहे थे कि you just said कि most Pakistani businesses serve other businesses. ठीक है, टेक्सटाइल वाले हैं तो वो retailers को serve कर रहे होंगे, right? यहाँ पे software houses हैं या BPOs हैं, वो भी दूसरे businesses को serve कर रही होंगी. You're saying that to put a country on a global map and associate a brand with it, you need to do a B2C play, where a Pakistani business serves end customers around the world, and the origin story connects clearly. That's a really hard.
Be in Pakistan and see globally.
That is
forget
hard.
about what we're doing. You know, like I said, what we're doing is very difficult. You know,
right.
It's a very big play, but look at other businesses.
Right.
I am not too aware, but sure, maybe somebody is doing it already.
Right.
But the most business that I see, when you talk about exports, when you talk about... You know,
the one I can think of is footballs.
Yeah.
ठीक है, जो आपका फुटबॉल या स्पोर्ट्स बिजनेस है, कमिंग आउट ऑफ पंजाब, सियालकोट या उस एरिया में से निकलता है, सबको पता है कि सॉकर बॉल्स जो हैं वो पाकिस्तान से आती हैं. वर्ल्ड कप
ब्रांड नेम लगता है किसी का?
हाँ, पाकिस्तानी ब्रांड नहीं लगता है.
They're not serving. See,
then it's not.
Then you're serving.
Yes,
then it's a B2B. It's become B2B
then
business,
you're B2B
right?
business.
When your brand जब कस्टमर को हाथ में जाएगा, it's from Pakistan. That's to me is a B2C business, right?
I can't think of one.
I've been trying very hard to think.
Tea industry में ठीक है, Tapal did a good job, but they're still not exporting at that level. और टी तो वैसे ही बाहर से आता है, वो तो सिर्फ रीपैकेज हो रहा है यहाँ पे. ठीक है, इसके अलावा क्या है? फ्रूट्स एंड वेजिटेबल्स का कोई हमारे पास नहीं है.
So I personally feel in the long run, you know, and we talk about most businesses, businesses who will survive and businesses who can scale from Pakistan which are local supply and local demand based, right?
Local supply and local demand. ठीक है.
So if I'm in a business where there's a lot of dependency on imports, I will...
The import substitution वाला business जो है.
And this is how most countries that have progressed in the past 25-30 years, and the two examples I can think of is China and India,
सब localization.
the same model. Right?
True.
It's your local scale. You get scale from your local population, right? So, I mean... टेक्सटाइल की बात कर लेते हैं. पाकिस्तान में टेक्सटाइल एक्सपोर्ट भी हो रहा है, पाकिस्तान में टेक्सटाइल इंपोर्ट भी हो रहा है, पाकिस्तान में टेक्सटाइल की सप्लाईज इधर उधर से भी आ रही हैं. सो ऐसे तो नहीं हो सकता ना. फर्स्ट मेक श्योर दैट यू नो, एंड आई से दिस के 250 million people in Pakistan, let's say an average consumption 10 meters per person, minimum. That's 2.5 billion meters of fabric that I require in Pakistan.
That's true.
Do I have enough spinning? Do I have enough weaving? Do I have enough processing for the 2.5 million people? You know?
Probably not.
Can we make a pocket square in Pakistan?
Probably not.
Made in Pakistan. So again, this is one area, right? Look at the opportunities to scale in Pakistan based on your local demand. You know? It's just that you have to do it properly. अभी और जो सही से कर रहा है, जिसने लोकल डिमांड को सही से cater कर लिया without sort of taking कोई shortcut लिए in terms of their product quality and brand building, they've been very, very successful.
Who do you think is doing it right today?
I think the right, what I believe in, and I'm a strong believer, is right now, and is the young entrepreneurs that are coming from Pakistan. I think we've got a fantastic talent right now in these young people.
इंस्टा पे तो मैं देखता हूँ जूतों के भी ऐड हैं, जूते भी यहाँ बन रहे हैं.
Yeah, the kind of ideas that I see that these people are doing is just about the problem is पाकिस्तान में कोई वो नहीं है कि somebody who can sort of VC fund जो इनको लेके इनको grow कराते हैं. But I think that's a lot of these young kids are doing it just right. In terms of the ideas, in terms of I think I got lucky at that time. I didn't have any competition. Right? But today, some of the ideas are far bigger than, and again, because the technology and all of this has helped us a lot. At हमारे time पे तो कुछ भी नहीं होता था ना जब when I started. There was nothing, there was no internet. But today, because of the accessibility of what's happening around the world and people in Pakistan having so much access to that, is really helping. Some of the ideas are great. So I see a lot of these stories coming out of Pakistan in the next few years, and that's where I totally believe where the hope is, because ये लेके जाएगा पाकिस्तान को.
In terms of the big companies, who do you think is doing it right? ये तो छोटे entrepreneurs हो गए. Large companies में who is doing it right today?
Large companies काफी हैं यार. मतलब Tapal is doing a good job.
Tapal is doing a good job. But they're also dependent on tea. तो import होता है. Tea तो पूरा imported है. Localized जो local creation है. Who do you think, in your opinion, is any sector?
Interesting. Agriculture.
Agri, food processors.
But again, the brand building is not there, right?
The brand building is not there, exactly.
Pakistan being an agriculture country, being an agriculture state, can you name 5 food brands?
I was, just thinking of that. I can name 5 American food brands that sell fruits. Dole fruits, for example.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you one.
आज भी खुश है.
मुझे सिर्फ कचेलो मैंगोज का पता है.
हाँ, हमें ये पता है. मुल्तान के मैंगो पाकिस्तानी मैंगो,
yes.
Right? There's no brand.
There's no brands.
And just I go back to what I said in the beginning. I think the biggest shortcoming I feel that we have, that we've not been able to create enough brand out of Pakistan with a local supply base.
मैं बल्कि पढ़ रहा था अभी brand की जो story है ना, I was reading somewhere where it actually started. The brand actually started when cattle farmers used to take hot metal and brand their cattle, क्योंकि वो cattle जब ग्रेज कर रहे होते थे तो दे यूज्ड टू गेट मिक्स्ड विद द नेबरिंग फार्मर्स कैटल. सो दे स्टार्टेड ब्रांडिंग द कैटल कि अच्छा दैट्स माय काउ, दैट्स योर काउ, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. फिर क्या करने लगे, वो उसी ब्रांड का जो था लोगो सिंबल अपने पैकेज के ऊपर डालने लगे एंड कस्टमर्स को टेल द डिफरेंस कि यार अच्छा ये वाला जो है टेस्ट अ लिटिल बिट डिफरेंट. एंड देन दैट मूव टू फ्रूट्स एंड वेजिटेबल्स एंड सो ऑन. सो एक्चुअली जो ब्रांडिंग है स्टार्टेड विद एग्रीकल्चर एंड फ्रूट्स एंड वेजिटेबल्स. और हमारे मुल्क में जो एक एग्री बेस्ड इकोनॉमी हम ब्रांड कर ही नहीं रहे. It's funny, So it's a wide open opportunity.
I mean, the amount of rice that we sell, the amount of wheat that we sell, it's like...
You can't name a branded rice company. Yeah. But you can say basmati rice. वो कितने brands होंगे उसके अंदर, वो basmati का भी credit पूरा India ले जाता है. So we're struggling overall with brand identity.
I could be wrong, but this is, I was not prepared for this, that you will ask me this, but this is the perception, the first thing that came to my mind.
Right.
So there could be somebody doing it, maybe I'm not aware of.
So in terms of, so let's say we take this as a problem, right? How does government play a role in solving this problem? Like, can government play a role, or is it all entrepreneur solved?
It's all entrepreneur. I think the government, the only role they can play is sort of provide them with a better level playing field. That's the only ask. जैसा मैं बात करता हूँ कि आज अगर रिटेल 85% अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड के पास है, तो थोड़ी सी उसके ऊपर वो करने से खुद बहुत इकोनॉमी ग्रो कर जाएगी.
तो उनको डॉक्यूमेंट करवाना चाहिए, मतलब टैक्स ले आए उनको, अंडर द टैक्स नेट ले आए.
अच्छा, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन
पे तो बहुत लड़ाई होती है. FBR chairmen have been fired trying to document the undocumented.
So but गलती किसकी है? हमारी अपनी गलती है.
How do you see the elections playing out? I mean, by the time this airs, the results will be out there. But how do you see them playing out?
यार जो भी हो पाकिस्तान के लिए अच्छा हो.
So you don't care?
Whoever comes
it's irrelevant.
As long as it's good for Pakistan. I think that's the only thing that should matter, right? Because you can't sort of predict who will be good and who will not be. But that's the only hope and pray right now, because I think right now हमारे पास ज़्यादा mistakes की
गुंजाइश नहीं रही है.
गुंजाइश नहीं रही है. You know, things have gone wrong in the past few years, and I think it's time for us to sort of, I mean, कहाँ जाएंगे इससे, मतलब है वो. And so this has to get better.
So if you mentioned entrepreneurship a lot, I'm cutting you off इसमें because I know कि गुंजाइश नहीं रही है. अब often हम क्या करते हैं कि हम कहते हैं कि नहीं, हम सियासतदानों पे छोड़ देते हैं यार, वो अपना मुल्क ठीक करें और सही लोग आएँ और करप्शन बंद हो, ये वो सब. I say forget all of that. ठीक है, मैं कहता हूँ जो होगा वो होगा, whatever. I'm a believer कि entrepreneurship can change the destiny of a country.
Yep.
How do you see entrepreneurship change the destiny of Pakistan?
Yeah, देखो, entrepreneurship क्या करेगी? Will bring in new ideas. Right?
ठीक है.
Whenever you come in with a new idea, that create multiple industries with it, right?
But उन industries को support तो चाहिए.
ठीक है, उसको support के लिए employment create होती है, economy बेहतर होती है, and you know anybody, you know, when you talk about entrepreneur, or आजकल when you talk about young entrepreneur, I don't think they will have that mindset that was there a few years back, like you know, कि टैक्स नहीं देना या वो नहीं करना. सो मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो होगा. सो अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स कैन बी फिक्स्ड विथ हैविंग मोर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स. एंड यू नो, आई मीन, एंड बिकॉज मैंने देखा, अपने साथ होते हुए देखा, राइट, कि एक खादी स्टार्टेड 25 years ago, देयर वाज zero organized retail at that time, right? Or look at the industry size now. You know, we were one of the pioneers you know, at that time. We started with an idea. We saw the gap. We started with an idea. You know, it was not something that, you know, I invented. It was everybody else. I saw it happening everywhere, not in Pakistan. I saw that gap and I started. And look at what's happened. उसके पीछे क्या क्या हुआ? Malls बने. उसके पीछे कितनी workforce पाकिस्तान में add हुई, कितनी support हुई from localization, documentation हुई from unorganized to organized. So all of this started happening, right? Digital marketing companies, you know, advertisement होनी शुरू हुई. Look at the multiple industries that got associated with just one thing. And this could be everywhere. You know, even अगर हम agri की बात करें, आज अगर कोई agri का भी brand बनाता है, तो I think multiple industries को support हो जाएगी इसके साथ.
लेकिन इसमें एक जो सबसे बड़ी requirement है ना for entrepreneurs to scale is financing.
Yeah.
ठीक है. आई मीन दुनिया में where we see this whole startup जो boom आया है, tech boom जो आया है पूरा, is because there were people willing to take risks on highly risky investments, small risks in the form of angel investments, then VC investments, and then potential IPOs and so on, right? Do we see that level of financing available in Pakistan? We don't see it. वो हर बैंक से आप लोन कहेंगे, पहले आप एक घर प्लेज करें, ज़मीन प्लेज करें. अगर मेरे पास ज़मीन या घर होता प्लेज करने के लिए, तो मैं उसको बेच नहीं देता अपने बिजनेस में डालने के लिए. तो ये फाइनेंसिंग यहाँ पे कहाँ से आएगी?
So मैं 1998 में सोचता 2023 की मेरी फाइनेंसिंग कैसे होगी, मैं तो कभी शुरू नहीं करता. Right? So
you'll have to wait 22 years, 25 years.
ठीक है ना, but उस टाइम का था ना. But if you always start small. You know, entrepreneur always start small and then you build up, right? You know, चीज़ें निकल आती हैं, solutions निकल आते हैं. You know, once you clear on your direction, and you always tell this to everybody. You know, any entrepreneur who asks me, I always say this: for an entrepreneur, it's very important, and I still do that. मुझसे नहीं होती 2 साल की planning. You know, मुझसे अभी भी मेरा mindset में everybody says कि let's do a 3-year, 4-year plan. I will sit in that meeting and look at it, but in my mind I will say, okay, yaar, let's focus on the next 4 months. Let's focus on the next 3 months. You know, let's deliver this.
So an entrepreneur cannot make a 3-year plan?
Absolutely not. Boss नहीं कर सकता.
So when you started in 98, you did not.
I had a 3-day plan. यार ये पैसे खत्म हो जाएंगे तो उसके बाद क्या होगा? You know, so.
ये कॉर्पोरेटाइजेशन में बहुत बड़ा फ़र्क है. कॉर्पोरेट्स में, आई मीन, आई हैव स्पेंड टाइम इन कॉर्पोरेट. मैं जनरल मोटर्स में 4 साल काम किया था. आई रिमेंबर हमारे प्लान्स बनते थे, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 1-year plan. मतलब फॉलो कोई नहीं करता था ये प्लान, बल्कि फोरकास्टिंग होती थी. फोरकास्टिंग भी ऐसी, फर्स्ट टाइम आई सैट इन अ सेल्स फोरकास्ट फॉर कार्स, आई थॉट देयर वाज अ साइंस बिहाइंड इट, राइट. आई थॉट पता नहीं कौन से मॉडल्स निकल के आएंगे, क्या होगा, वेदर प्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी होगी, हॉलीडेज़ की होगी. एंड आई सॉ 6 लोग एक कमरे में बैठे थे, लाइक लास्ट मंथ क्या सेल थी, पिछले साल क्या sale थी? Okay. Yeah, it'll be about this much. And all what's happening, guys, it literally took 5 minutes. We spent the rest of the hour in the meeting shooting the shit. And that was forecasting. I said, what is this corporate business, yaar? So, to me, ये जो the modeling, the corporatization के अंदर ये भी challenges हैं कि you're trying to waste time doing stuff that really is not needed.
So, Faizan, let me tell you my view on this. So, मेरा थोड़ा सा इस पे, there's a difference of opinion. So again, an entrepreneur started off with a minimum capital, कुछ नहीं पता था क्या था. I mean, I never thought I'll go into retail, right? I always used to कपड़ा बनाता था, जाके बेच देता था. कोई खरीदता नहीं था मुझसे कपड़ा. जब किसी ने कपड़ा मेरा नहीं खरीदा, मैंने कहा अपनी शॉप बना के खुद ही बेच. I was a textile designer. यार, my own passion was about making handloom fabric. So anyway. So हमेशा just took up this, पूरा ये उस टाइम पे बड़ी corporates थी, आज भी हैं, there was Unilever, Anglo, P&G. This was all, when I was starting up, they were all the companies, and I used to say, yaar, wow, yaar. And you talk to anybody at that time, the dream was to work for Unilever,
True.
P&G, Anglo. This was in the early 2000s.
अभी भी ऐसे ही है, काफी हद तक.
Which is great. I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's a great what they've done for the country, and and so much talent they've produced, and fantastic, phenomenal companies we have in Pakistan. So हमेशा मेरा था यार, मैं भी एक दिन ये करूँगा. So 2016 में जब पूरा corporatization किया था, तो उस टाइम पे पूरा एक one of the ambition was this. I used to have an office inside. I'm going to have an office in the main city, my own building, blah 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 blah. All ambition. The
full shashka.
So we moved to our Dolmen office 5 days before the lockdown.
Wow.
I sat in my office on Monday morning, in the first meeting I had. I called my entire leadership and I said, guys, it's Mayday. We're going to crash and everything's going to shut down. First day, I mean, Dolmen office, 60,000 square feet.
Wow.
हम 300-350 लोग थे, so that office में 800 लोगों का office था. And the first day I walked into that office and kind of knew that this week the entire world is going to shut down.
Right.
So anyway, so this was my beginning of it. But during COVID, मैं थोड़ा सा मेरा disagreement हो गया on this whole. So when I talk about that few incidents that sort of changed my life, that sort of pushed me back into that entrepreneurship mode, was one of this, I think, COVID. To me, if you talk about COVID में जो पूरा lockdown tha, which is very, very important to do at that time, it can be multiple now, कि सही था, गलत था, जो भी था. But in 2021, I started realizing, कैसा lockdown है यार? Half of the world is shut, but half of the world was open. Some people were sort of downsizing, some people were hiring, right? Where some of the retail companies globally were sort of downsizing, the last mile was hiring, right? The e-commerce companies were hiring. कौन सी फैक्ट्री बंद हुई पाकिस्तान में कोविड में? कोई भी बंद नहीं हुई, राइट?
फूड पैंडा के डिलीवरी राइडर्स तो बंद नहीं थे.
कुछ भी बंद नहीं था.
वो तो ऑफिस जा रहे थे रोज.
कुछ था वहाँ पे, ठीक है, बट सुबह में जो मुझे ये भी ख्याल आया कि यार ये कोविड सिर्फ जो लोग एसी में सोते हैं उनको तो नहीं होता सिर्फ. मुझे तो सिर्फ थोड़ा ये हुआ, बिकॉज द जनरल पीपल हु आर वर्किंग, राइट? I started gaining so much respect for all of this, right? So is the corporate offices and the corporate blocks which were shut, working from home, some of the businesses were booming in COVID. Some कुछ businesses को, हमारे से businesses को मसला हुआ COVID में. कुछ businesses के लिए बहुत अच्छा था.
Online businesses thrived,
ठीक है ना? मगर उनके जो workforce थी वो काम कर रही थी, और जो पीछे back office था जिसका उस वक्त वो कोई ज़रूरत भी शायद मुझे नहीं पता कितनी थी उस टाइम के ऊपर, बिकॉज everything was selling, everything, they were all working from home, right? So ये क्या हुआ? So जब कोविड के बाद खुलना शुरू हुआ, तो same conversation we started happening in our organization, right? We started talking about 50% capacity, all of this. I said, यार, we just moved into a 60,000 square feet office. 350 लोग हैं हम लोग, ठीक है? ये ऑफिस में 600-700 लोग फिट आ सकते हैं. Simple maths, one person is about 300 square feet to himself. And you're saying go to 50%? We talked about office capacity 50%. 50% of what? Why didn't we define that? Okay, नहीं यार, कि एक रूम में इतने लोग नहीं हो सकते. All of these things. So And a lot of people sort of, जबरदस्त यार, 3 दिन घर से छुट्टी काम करने की मिल गई. Then I said, listen, so if you're going to shut down, if you're going to go to 50% capacity, so we're going to shut down our store. And there was a time that, Karachi में e-commerce बंद था, 1.5 महीने बाद stores खुल रहे थे.
Right.
There was zero cash, almost zero cash flow for about month and a half.
Yeah, the April 2020, I
Yeah, it
remember.
was like, literally like, and अब आप खुल रहे हैं. And I said, ये तो नहीं हो सकता. So when CV said, I called my team and said, यार ये क्या मैं क्या किसी को face करूँगा अपनी shop पे जाके? When I will say, यार I'm too scared to come to the office because मुझे कोविड हो जाएगा या मुझे कुछ हो जाएगा या आप नहीं आ सकते या आप नहीं आ सकते. बट स्टोर्स को कह रहे हैं यार तुम जरा डबल एफर्ट करना ताकि सैलरीज दे दें हम जो है ना. So on average a store person had to make sure that they interact with 100 people, right, a day for the cash flow to keep running. But we will sit at home. So that was, to me, was a complete no. That changed everything for me. कि ये कैसे हो सकता है यार, ये कहाँ से हुआ? So when it was this, why was everybody, if the factories were working, if the plants were running, if the sales force were working, why didn't they come out and say, no, our teams are working, we will work as well? And that's what I think, that should have changed everything for me.
And you think that the corporate entities should have behaved like that? क्योंकि उनकी factories चल रही थी, उनकी distribution चल रही थी, लेकिन उनके head offices सबके वो work from home.
We sit in a building जहाँ पे बहुत सारे head offices, बहुत सारी companies के used to be complete. They used to be completely empty.
That's right. Dolmen is the headquarters for a lot of companies.
1-1.5 साल के बाद कुछ हुआ भी तो फिर वो 2 दिन पे शुरू हुआ, वो हुआ. So again, but again, I think probably that was the right thing to do. I'm not saying this, right? That was probably the right thing to do at that time. But why did they only apply
to the co-head offices?
That was my...
Because, maybe the answer is because they had to show that they were doing something and they couldn't do it in a factory because you need the worker in the factory, you need the delivery driver, you need the stockist, the merchandiser, you need the salesperson, you know what I mean? But yeah, you don't need these people. So, mere liye, I will look at it slightly differently. I might say that it opened our eyes, at least my eyes, to realizing, do I really need... So we have about 8,000 square feet of real estate. Okay, we've got, let's say, about 100 people. Do I really need all 100 people to show up here? Because we're not a factory. We are creating, this is all we need. We need a laptop. So if I don't need them and I can give them a wireless device and I can give them a good desk and a chair and I can invest in that कि ये लो यार मैं तुम्हारा 50-60 हज़ार रुपये इन्वेस्ट करता हूँ, तुम्हारे घर पे एक अच्छी स्टडी एरिया बनती है, अब घर पे बैठ के तुम काम करो, ना पेट्रोल का खर्चा, ना 2 घंटे तुम्हारे ज़ाया हो रहे हैं आने जाने में, तुम बैठ के क्रिएट करो. हाँ, ऑफिस है, डेस्क नहीं है, एक मिंगल करना है, लोगों से मिलना है, टीम बॉन्डिंग करनी है, कुछ लंच करना है, yes, that's available for you. But you can work from home.
But that's a different thing altogether. No? That was the realization a lot of people had. Even we did. Everybody did. Okay, now physically you don't have to be present.
You don't.
I think the business became far more productive.
Agreed.
Far more efficient because of this.
Right.
Because एक को कभी किया नहीं था try. Right? Started for the first time use Zoom and started having Teams meetings, virtual meetings. So all of that is great. So I'm not denying any of that. That should exist. That should always exist. I think productivity has increased a lot because of that. But मैं तो एक बात आपसे ही कर रहा हूँ कि if the office was at 50% capacity, let's say, or 3 days a week, that should have been across the organization.
So the factory should have been at 50% capacity. The store should have been at 50% capacity.
So stores तो बंद हो जाते थे ना, 2 दिन हफ्ते में बंद हो जाते थे.
Stores तो right.
Timing कम हो गए थे, सब कुछ हो गए थे. उसमें भी बड़ा अजीब था, like when इधर जब डॉल्मेन मॉल की बात करें, it used to be shut on Saturday Sundays because of Saturday Sunday को कोविड होता था. So but मुझे याद है एक वो हुआ था, I don't know if you remember that कोई बेचारा कोई पानी का जहाज था जो इधर आ गया था about COVID.
हाँ सीवी पे जो आ गया था drifted. Yes.
And at that time I used to cycle.
Yeah.
And I couldn't cycle that weekend because there were about 30,000-40,000 or 20,000 people
who reached
but the businesses were shut.
Right? But the businesses were shut.
So,
and ये बड़ा interesting. इसमें this reminds me of a phrase I will never forget. So I was running a TV channel for a while. तो TV channel में मेरा जो distribution का head था, वो एक दिन आके मुझसे कहता है कि देखें जी वो हमने केबल ऑपरेटर से बात की है और 3-4 लोगों ने जो बात की है ना, वो ये कहा है कि देखें ये फैसले जो है ना, ये ठंडे कमरों के फैसले हैं. एंड आई पॉज्ड फॉर द सेकंड, आई सेड ठंडे कमरों के अच्छा है तो यानी कि एसी चल, अच्छा ओके, यू आर इम्प्लाइंग दैट ये वाले फैसले जो हैं दिस बड़े सेठ लेते हैं, ये नीचे कारकुन जो केबल ऑपरेटर्स जो लाइन मैन होते हैं, ये उनके फैसले नहीं होते हैं. एंड आई थिंक कोविड में भी व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज कि ये ठंडे कमरों के फैसले थे दैट पुट certain people less at risk while not worrying about the others.
To me, that didn't work. That didn't make the cut.
What have you done differently since to take it forward in your company?
So as I said, that whole mindset of a closed room.
And that's why you broke the wall.
That's what I broke. No.
So it's not just a physical wall you broke. You broke the barrier
and
of...
That changed everything. Any sort of, no place to sort of advise anybody or to give. But if an entrepreneur asks me, okay, what is one thing they should do, I would say never ever sit in a closed door. That is the end of it.
Can glass count?
Nope.
I should get rid of all of this.
Because a closed room will do you. You haven't been to our office recently. But in my office, I have my table and I have a meeting room and I have a meeting table.
Right.
Except for the board meeting that I do once in 3 months, I've not had a single meeting in the boardroom.
Right.
या एक और एक होती है हमारी जो एक उधर होती है.
Right.
Any discussion I have it in my room in the meeting table with an open about 40 foot का open वो with people sitting about 30 foot दूर.
Right.
And I have open discussions, right? Because I feel the पूरी जो organization में एक बात होती है ना कि that whole जो about the organization, because I went through a lot of negativity at that time. There was a fantastic and yet a horrible time. There was so much negativity about the brand. There was so much negativity about जो एक पूरी खादी की स्ट्रैटेजी थी. एंड ऐसा मुझे लगता था उस टाइम पे लोग तो वेट कर रहे थे कि यार अब आगे आप इस पे करते हैं बात, ठीक है. सो एंड आई सेड ऑल ऑफ दिस happens because when you start having these meetings in closed rooms.
Yeah.
The minute you will do this, यार ये नहीं वर्क कर रहा, जोर से बोलो, तो कोई बात ही नहीं होगी. बिकॉज होता ही है कि कोई गुजरते हुए एक लफ्ज सुन लेता है आपको, ठीक है, एंड देन दे स्टार्ट
फिर वो जोड़ने लगते हैं
स्टोरीज.
That's true.
एंड दैट किल्ड अ लॉट ऑफ इस तरह की जो नेगेटिव न्यूज़ एंड ऑल ऑफ दिस. एंड आई थिंक द होल कल्चर ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज इम्प्रूव्ड. So I was talking to somebody who sits very close to my office, and he was just telling me about 2 weeks back. He worked for an MNC before, and he said कि उसमें जो होता था, हम कहीं गए हुए थे, right? So we were in fact at Colette or or something. अब वापसी में मैंने कहा यार मेरे पास गाड़ी नहीं है, तुम्हारी गाड़ी में चलूँगा. So I just had in his car, and he said कि जो एक फ़र्क है ना कि वहाँ पे हर एक का एक अलग किसी कंपनी का बता रहा था कि जहाँ काम किया है उसकी वो जगह भी अलग थी, उसकी लिफ्ट भी अलग थी, उसमें कोई जा नहीं सकता था. अगर लिफ्ट ख़राब हो गई तो उस लिफ्ट को फिर भी यूज़ नहीं कर सकते थे. सो कहते हैं देन वी सी ऑल ऑफ दिस ओवर हियर, इज सो easily accessible. I think that sort of motivates people so much because that room मैं आपसे बात कर रहा था would be good for you, right? But look at it
from their perspective. So ये तो बात हो गई कि एक कल्चर बिल्ड करना होता है, ओपन डिस्कशन होती है, and discuss everything out in the open, right? I completely agree with you. I'm also a believer in open spaces. I do feel that sometimes you do need space to yourself, space to think, because you do need some peace of mind. And maybe that thinking happens outside the office because as an entrepreneur, like you said, you're a leader. You're not working 9 to 5. You're working 24/7. And some of the greatest ideas can come at the most random times. Now, you've come up with a whole set of ideas.
Can I cut you over here?
Huh?
Can I cut you over?
Yeah.
Then you're not an entrepreneur.
Then you're not an entrepreneur. Why is that?
Because an entrepreneur just thinks of new ideas and new things while dreaming. They can't do it during the day.
They can't do it during the day.
You have to dream.
You can daydream.
No.
I daydream. I 100% daydream.
Daydream से कुछ नहीं होता.
है?
नहीं होता है. यार 9 to 5 मैं क्या कर रहा था, मैं जी आज आपने काम नहीं किया जी, मैं ख्वाब देख रहा था.
नहीं अच्छा मेरे लिए so if I'm riding a bike, if I'm going for a run, right? Sometimes out on a run, sometimes out for a drive.
That's it now. That's it. You're not sitting in that closed room.
Yeah, I'm not sitting in the closed
You
room.
can't sit and make. This is what I'm saying. This is the difference between.
Okay, I see what you're saying. In the closed
difference
room,
between a
yes,
vision and a strategy.
yes,
right?
yes, yes. I
So
agree.
they're completely two different things, and people mix it up. Strategy
Yeah, I
is
can't.
just
Yeah,
an
of course.
outcome.
None of the best ideas have come here. So it has to be doing something else where my mind is completely lost. In
खादी
the
का मुझे आइडिया आज तक याद है. मुझे कराची एयरपोर्ट पे आया था. I was talking to somebody on the phone.
हाँ.
कि यार ये कपड़ा मेरे पास इतना हो गया है और ये कोई खरीद नहीं रहा और मैं क्या करूँगा. And I'm just thinking what to do with it. जी ख़त्म हो जाए so that I get out of it. And that I thought, नहीं यार.
The start of Khaadi.
I remember I said that. वो उस वक्त वो थे वो जो टेलीफोन मोबाइल फोन तो नहीं थे उस टाइम पे, होंगे भी तो
टेलीकार्ड था.
राइट. I was talking वो जो कार्ड
लगाते थे.
ठीक है. और उस पे मैं
एयरपोर्ट पे वो कार्ड वाला घूम रहा था.
I remember कि कोई मेरे इस आइडिया को समझ ही नहीं रहा कि मैं करना क्या चाह रहा हूँ. Then I said, okay.
So your Khaadi idea was an idea of you wanting to get rid of excess product.
I wanted to get out of it. यार ये खत्म हो जाके जो पैसे लिए वापस करूँगा. एक डी किसको होता है. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
Again, no names, but
Yeah.
जो भी था उस टाइम पे, I tried so hard.
Yeah.
यार इतना अच्छा कपड़ा है. I'm telling you the kind of product that I developed at that time. I can't even think of making that because those were like probably I could have gone and sold it to anywhere in the world, but nobody appreciated it. The realization at that time was that while on that call, it's never the product that you sell. It's the idea.
It's the
and if
idea.
nobody is trying to understand what I'm trying to do, I have to do it myself.
Yeah.
So
interesting. And so now
मैं कमरे में बैठ के सोच के यार अच्छा यार खादी बना.
नहीं हाँ so okay I don't mean it that way कि कमरे में बैठ के you can't daydream, you can't dream in a room. Yes, I agree with you. I still feel that you do need a meeting space where you need to do quiet work, right? Maybe drafting an email, maybe doing something like that. You feel that no, just do everything in the open.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try that. Okay, fine.
Talk to 10 people who work over there. Probably they at times they hate it as well, but because then again that's it. Yeah, that's an open culture. When you talk about an open, you talk
Truly
about
open
a culture.
culture. Yeah,
you talk about a culture. क्यों आप छुपाना है? क्या छुपाना है आपने?
I remember the truly open culture जो मैंने आज तक देखा था ना, General Motors में 2004 में they opened a new factory where they were building the Hummer and they sent me there in Louisiana and उसका मैंने पहली दफ़ा देखा था कि the entire assembly line was like there through glass. You could see the entire assembly line and next to the assembly line was an open low cubicles with the plant manager sitting with you. I came from a very old school plant which was built in the 1920s. उसका जो प्लांट मैनेजर का ऑफिस था ना वो एक कोने में था, उसकी पार्किंग भी अलग थी, उसका एक्सेस भी अलग था, सेक्रेटरी थी. You couldn't get to the plant manager. But in this plant where they were building the latest Hummer, the plant manager was sitting right there and I'm sitting right here. And he was making calls and just talking about, you were not allowed to talk about breakdowns. You were not allowed to talk about defects. And ये वो यहाँ पे बैठ के वो सारी खुल के बातें चल रही थी. I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is truly open. He's talking about...
How did you feel about that?
Initially, I remember the first day, it felt really weird. And I was still maybe 23. And I'd just come from this very traditional plant. They wanted me to get this experience. And the first day, I felt very uncomfortable because I heard everyone talking about issues. After about a week, I suddenly realized that they were solving those issues far faster than they used to solve them over there. And talking about issues was not a bad thing. To me, that was, I think, the biggest takeaway was in the old plant, talking about issues was like, oh shit, you messed up. Oh, usko छुपाओ ताकि किसी को पता ना चले. यहाँ पे अच्छा है mess up हो गया कोई बात नहीं, अच्छा उसको इस तरह fix कर लो, अच्छा तुमने क्या किया, अच्छा तुम इस तरह कर लो, अच्छा you know what the plant operator is giving us a solution, okay, apply that solution. Far faster, much better quality product only because information was open and you were not getting reprimanded for making a mistake. Everyone was solving the problem together. Yeah. That was my takeaway. But that was a truly open culture.
But did it help or not?
It built a fantastic product.
That's what it is, an open culture. We are an open culture. We have an open door policy. Why do we have a door? Yeah, to find an open door.
हाँ, ये बात तो सही है. पाकिस्तान में चल सकता है open culture?
बिल्कुल चल सकता है. ज़्यादा अच्छा चल सकता है पाकिस्तान में. So, and it's working, I'm telling you it's working. So one advice that I would give to any entrepreneur is, please come बंद कमरों में जाके नहीं बैठना.
बंद कमरों में ठंडे ठंडे कमरों के फैसले ना ले. So you've built these multiple brands now. Now tell me where, again, like you said, there's no 5-year plan. You take it month to month or whatever. But एक vision होगा. You canteen है, Khaadi खास है, kids का brand है. Chapter 2, wherein the journey is that, and then you also have your create your mark.
Yeah.
Walk me through how you see these evolving.
So I think as an organization, I'll be very open. We are very good in building new brands, new ideas. But somehow हम उसको sustain, एक खाड़ी को बहुत सारा sustain कर लिया, but कुछ चीज़ों को sustain नहीं किया. And a lot had to do with probably the way I am. But I think that's the realization has come now. So we start off well, then we sort of वो focus हट जाता था उसमें से. So kids we don't do anymore. The others are. Chapter 2 where we started again because this is all because when I started from 1998 to 2012, जितना भी product था सब hand woven होता था. When we started growing, one of the first thing we had to do was कि यार hand woven में तो growth नहीं आ सकती. So it was always that एक guilt था कि जिस चीज़ से शुरू किया वो
give up कर दिया.
So I started chapter 2 just to bring back the whole weaving back into Khaadi. Started off extremely well. Made some wrong decisions, couldn't sustain it, started again after COVID. So one of the realization was जो focus COVID में हुई ना कि जो initial first 2 weeks की, and this is probably applies to all organizations across, most organizations, not the ones who are very, very successful. So in a business, there's 20% good to have and 80% which is your core. Right? That's what in our case. Unfortunately, we were spending 80% time on good to have and 20% time on core. कि यार ये करेंगे तो 2040 में ही हो जाएगा आपके साथ. ठीक है. अरे वाह, पेपर पे तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है 2040 में क्या हो जाएगा. Right? And then the realization was no, you need to spend 95% of your time on your core. So let's not do anything जो कि important नहीं है. So the first thing was to sort of shrink the portfolio, so I stopped everything. I stopped canteen, I stopped kids, I stopped chapter 2. I said, no, the main focus is Khaadi. Let's focus on Khaadi. After 21, when the entire thing, पूरा change हुआ, COVID की बात अगर आप करो फिलहाल 2020 में, the day of the lockdown, we had 62 stores in Pakistan and we were in 31 cities. Today we are down to 41 stores, down to I think 20 cities, and my team will. I don't want my team to get nervous, but I'm hoping to come down to 25 stores and maybe 7-8 cities and triple the turnover to what it was in 2020. Because वो जो 60 स्टोर थे और जो 25 स्टोर होंगे इनके स्क्वायर फुटेज में बहुत फर्क होगा. Because that sort of that's because the core is customer experience. So
they're no longer a store; it's a experience center in a sense.
So to that big, वो हमारे forefront पे आ गया है. Right now we're doing chapter 2. We just started canteens, very successful. Alhamdulillah, we plan to grow it, but again not compromising on our
customer experience. And tell me about create your mark.
So create your mark एक था ये कोविड से पहले वाला टाइम था ना. उस टाइम पे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो हमारे लंबे सेशंस होते थे उस वक्त बड़ी बात होती थी कि as a brand we need to do something, this, that, sustainability. बड़ा common word था fashion में sustainability, right? And I used to listen, I said अच्छा यार कर लेंगे इसको ना. Then COVID के बाद जब COVID हुआ, all the realization, one of the thing was that I called a couple of people in my room and said, in a country like Pakistan, where there are health issues, schools नहीं है, hospitals, पीने को साफ पानी नहीं है यार. So who cares about organic cotton? What are we doing as a brand? Why are we talking about it? I said, no, we will not do this. Pakistan में ये चीज़ नहीं चल सकती. ये बाहर मुल्कों में बहुत ही चल जाती है बिकॉज दे हैव गॉट नथिंग लेफ्ट, राइट. सब कुछ सारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर उनका बिल्ड हो गया है. अब उनको फॉर देम टू बी रेलेवेंट क्या करेंगे, कुछ ना कुछ तो करेंगे ना. तो अगर मैं कहता हूँ अगर ये ब्रांड इतने ज़बरदस्त हैं तो ये ऑर्गेनिक कॉटन को 0 प्रॉफिट में बेचना शुरू कर देना. बोले नो प्रॉफिट, जो भी कॉस्ट है इसमें बेचूंगा मैं इसको. ऑर्गेनिक कॉटन इज सेविंग डूइंग इट फॉर द वर्ल्ड, राइट. नो, दे विल मेक श्योर द मार्जिन इज हायर ऑन दैट कॉटन. दैट्स हाउ इट इज, राइट. इट बिकम्स ऑल ऑफ मार्केटिंग. सो आई सेड वी विल नॉट डू दैट. देन आई स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग कि हमारे लिए क्या ज़रूरी है, हम कैसे करेंगे कोई चीज़. हाउ डू आई कनेक्ट ऑल द थिंग्स. तो उस टाइम पे हम 21 में डॉल्मेन का बड़ा स्टोर बना रहे थे. सो उसमें स्टोर में मैंने एक मेन एरिया था, जो मेन फोकस एंट्रेंस ऑफ द स्टोर अबाउट 1000 स्क्वायर फुट का होगा, विच प्रॉब्ली द मोस्ट प्राइम स्पेस इन द स्टोर. आई लेफ्ट इट एम्प्टी एंड दिस एवरीबडी सेड क्या करेंगे. मैंने कुछ नहीं करेंगे. उस टाइम पे वही सब बातें चल रही थी. मैंने कहा देखो लकी हमने खरीदा किया कि गाड़ी लगा के यहाँ पे उसकी एग्जीबिशन कर लेंगे, कुछ भी कर लेंगे यहाँ पे, ठीक है, बट इसको छोड़ देंगे. Because I was not ready for that. When the store opened, then I said, okay, let's see what's important for me. For me, again, for the probably the 100th time since we've been talking, for me the most important thing is entrepreneurship, right? Which is right now in my heart. I said entrepreneurship is important for me. And then I started looking around कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं. उस टाइम पे मुझे याद है कोई फेयर हॉल पे कोई प्रोटेस्ट हो रहा था, you know. So I said कि you know पाकिस्तान में क्या प्रॉब्लम है. You know, I think पाकिस्तान का जो एक प्रॉब्लम्स का एक सोल्यूशन है ना, वो ये है कि they need more women in our workforce.
True.
Right.
औरत मार्च हो रहा था उस वक्त, I think, या कुछ था.
You know. And we need more women because जब ये हो जाता है, so you know I think मैंने देखा है कि लोग थोड़ा सा जो लोगों को जो आप प्रॉब्लम्स आप सोसाइटी में देखते हैं वो पैसों की वजह से देखते हैं. बिकॉज अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन आवर कल्चर बिकॉज वो डिपेंडेंसी होती है, लाइक यू नो वेदर इज द ब्रदर और द फादर और हस्बैंड, वो एक थोड़ा सा एक वो चीज़ होता है. So when women become independent and they start working, तो थोड़ा सा मुझे लगता है पाकिस्तान में ज़्यादा स्टेबिलिटी आ जाएगी. So he said, yeah, entrepreneurship is important to us, and women workforce, women entrepreneurs. So what can we do with women entrepreneurs? So हमने वो जगह पे हमने कहा हम एक प्रोग्राम लॉन्च करते हैं, and every month we will have 3 women entrepreneurs जो कि आके एग्जिबिट करेंगे. बड़ी मुश्किल से हमने वो करके Then we did the same thing in the second store we built, the third store we built, and now we are building 2 more stores with this. So आज उसका outcome ये है कि after 1 year, I don't know the exact number, but about 65-70 women have sort of exhibited with us. I think their businesses have grown.
Wow.
Because we don't charge any profit to them. We help them with their packaging. We help them कि pricing कैसे थोड़ी बहुत करनी है, barcoding कैसे होती है, small details.
So this is completely pro bono. You're literally taking a
absolutely.
woman her own.
Prime space in Dolmen, prime space in Lucky, prime
That's
space in
unbelievable,
Emporium,
right?
So last I heard about, we've now sort of, it's all online, you can apply, and हमने 4-5 महीने पहले बंद कर दिया था because I think हमारे पास अब 2.5 या 3 साल की तो वेटिंग लिस्ट हो चुकी है इसके ऊपर.
Unbelievable.
And there are about 600-700 people, women who are in the waiting list. Obviously there are certain criteria that you have to sort of, and that program has been so successful.
It's unbelievable program.
If you talk about my dream and aspiration, I would love to have a store, my Dolmen, size of Dolmen store, just for Creative Mark. Because I think as a brand, the best way to sort of make it sustainable is to support these entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs.
That's a great, I mean, if you think about it, you're giving out 1,000 square feet of prime retail space.
So hopefully we're going to, I hope to have about 10-15 of these.
Yeah.
And then Karachi में करते हैं. जो successful होते हैं वो लाहौर में जाते हैं.
Right.
फिर उसमें से I think एक आध को तो हमने वो भी किया है कि the whole idea is if they have potential, they can come into our supplier base, right? And we can help their businesses grow. So all of this, and I think the team is doing an absolutely phenomenal job with this. Right?
Incredible. That's a huge plus for entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. And you talk a lot about women entrepreneurs. You talk a lot about women in the workspace.
Yeah.
And I want to come to my final question with this. How does it play out working with the most important woman in your life, your wife, because you work with your wife, right? And you work together in the same space. You're raising a family together. A lot of men are like, man, you know what? That home in itself is a challenge. Office में हम क्या साथ कैसे काम करेंगे? So how do you guys make it work?
So I think home is still easy to manage. Work gets difficult.
And both of you have a creative background.
There's always, I think, एक होता है. There's always challenging होता है. और ideas में conflict भी हो जाता है. और बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाता है.
तो क्या घर का conflict, ऑफिस का conflict घर तो नहीं जाता या घर का conflict ऑफिस में नहीं आता? How do you create that separation? Do you have stars like a huddle every day that this is the work huddle, this is the family huddle?
यानी कभी किया नहीं है, but I would like to try this out soon and see. But I think ये देखो ये इतना टाइम हो गया and because the business was small, if your business was big and आज वो होता तो बहुत मुश्किल होता.
Right.
नहीं हो सकता. It was impossible to do it. आज के उसमें. But since वो एक evolution हुई है उसकी with time, so kind of हो गया. But yes, I think अगर it has its pros and cons to it, right? But
more pros, more cons.
More pros, I would say.
So it's surviving. So you're saying that because it grew with the business, plus the relationship grew with time. So the relationship grew, the business grew, it kind of grew together.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it. Rather than a lot of time, like a spouse will want to join in a business later on.
Which is X, Y, Z, इतना बड़ा तो वहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि it will not work, Because, I got married to Saira, Khaadi was 3 years old.
Right. So still relatively young.
She was teaching in Indus and she started working part-time.
Right.
जब तक वो, by the time she was full-time, business was very, very small still.
So it grew together.
So that sort of, I think that formula can work for anybody.
And will you turn this into a family business? Will your kids come into this business?
Yeah, that I personally, again, क्या time क्या होता है उस time पे मुझे नहीं पता, but I don't think ये is the, I can't comment on it right now. But that's not something that's in my mind. That's really up to the kids what they want to do, and I would.
So you're not going to do the typical Pakistani family business. आ जाओ जी बस पढ़ के वापस business में आ जाओ, ये तुम्हारी director position है.
मैंने खुद नहीं किया ना. खुद नहीं किया तो how can I encourage anybody else to do it, right? And I think this is one thing that I personally feel stops a lot of Pakistani businesses from growing. Because जो आप प्रोफेशनल्स हायर करके काम कर सकते हैं, इट्स नॉट दैट कि फैमिली सपोर्ट नहीं करती, फैमिली नहीं कर सकती, बट एट टाइम्स सम वैल्यू जो प्रोफेशनल्स आपको बिजनेस को दे सकते हैं वो शायद आपको फैमिली से ना मिले इसके ऊपर एंड आई थिंक एनी वी लुक एट ऑल मैं तो हमेशा कहता हूँ इधर क्यों देखना है, लेट्स लुक एट ऑल द ग्लोबल सक्सेसेस. सो हाउ मेनी बिजनेसेस हैव लाइक होते हैं बट प्रोफेशनलाइज. मुझे लगता है कि टू मच फैमिली हो तो प्रोफेशनलाइज करना बिजनेस को मुश्किल हो जाता है. Because I had that opportunity at that time, because I don't have a brother, and और ये कोई business में नहीं था साथ family में, so I had to, and it sort of paid off very well.
True. Shamoon, this was amazing, yaar. Thank you. I really enjoyed the chat. I could keep going on for hours, but I know you have places to be as well. Thank you for taking the time out. I know this is your first podcast.
Yes.
I think you did phenomenally. I think you answered a lot of questions that were not just on my mind, but a lot of people's minds. And I hope you do more podcasts. I think it's important like you give back through, create your mark. It is these kinds of podcasts that offer learning sessions for, students or aspiring entrepreneurs. वो ये सुन के सीखते हैं कि यार, if you can do it, कोई भी कर सकता है. You know what I mean? So I appreciate
I really enjoyed myself.
No, I appreciate the candid discussion. And good luck.
Thank you.
You've got a big, sort of vision ahead. And I wish you all the best on that journey. Yaar.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to DigiTales. We've got phenomenal guests coming up. Please like and subscribe and comment below. I like to read your comments. जो comments देते हैं उस पर मैं feedback देता हूँ. Your comments are important, so please keep them coming. Thank you and bye.